Hey there, Chad here with the second half of episode 10 of my Kerbal Space Program in 2021 tutorial. We will join Jeb with the scenario already in progress.
But why have all this power if you're not going to use it? So here we go. Flying the rocket just a little to maintain that. Eventually, Jeb will be able to do that for me, Jeb and Valentina, or any other pilot really that experiences up, levels up. I don't think they have the ability to do maneuver nodes just yet, though. Okay, come close to the end of this burn. Okay, that's probably it. I'm going to go ahead and kill it there, and let's see how close we got. Focus on the moon. I didn't get very close. I didn't actually get a marker there. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just hit shift one time very quickly. And here it comes. Now that's my actual path right now. That's the actual one because I don't have a node set up. So this is it showing me my physical projected path if nothing else changes between now and when I get there. I want that to be a little closer. However, because of how close we are to the, or far away we are from the moon right now, that's actually even the minimum power. I'm going to jump that gap really, really quickly. So I'm going to need to be very careful, and I probably will overshoot it. I'm going to take that. That's pretty good. 53. Let's see if I can get a little closer. If I overdo it, all we do is turn the ship the other direction and reverse it. The other thing we can do is wait till we get closer, and then it's just like a fulcrum, a lever in a fulcrum. The closer I am, the less change a little bit will make. And I got way too close there. So that's okay though, because that'll allow me to do a mid-course correction and show that it's a little more sensitive or less sensitive when you're closer. Let's put a node here. We're just going to warp to that spot. I can do another material study for 37.5 points. Let's do that. There we go. That's done. Okay, so we're closer to the moon now by quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and focus on it. You'll notice that because we were drifting through space, the vacuum of space, nothing changed with our course. There was no force was applied to the capsule, so we're exactly where we started. What I'm going to do is point myself in the retrograde position. If I can find it. Shouldn't be too hard. Okay, there's pro. So pro and retro will always be opposite each other. And there it is. So what I'm going to do is line it up as perfectly as I can. And I'm just going to briefly tap the throttle and kill it. And we're out to 10. That's perfect. That's all I need to do. We will not fly the capsule at all anymore until we're in here. So what I can do to fast forward to this point is I can literally put a mark here and just say warp here. And it will warp one day into the future. And I can follow the ship instead of the moon. And there we go. You'll notice at this point a material study is going to be 50 points. Let's go ahead and back this down a little because, yeah, there's a lot of things we can do here. I'm going to do a temperature scan, atmosphere scan, goo, and we'll do a material study. I think I've used 2 or 3 of those now, which is fine. I mean, that's what they're there for. But there's going to be at least one come up here that'll be worth 70 science points. I'd like to grab at least one of those. So let's get into orbit here. I'm actually going to save our progress right there. Again, because if I mess any of these up, that's a lot of work to go back and redo. So I'm going to add a maneuver here. Like I almost clicked warp here and that would have completely messed this up. Add a maneuver. All I'm going to do is slow the ship down until it falls into orbit. And that would be in orbit there. Let's make it a decently close one. So 14,000 and 10,000. That's awesome. I have no problem with that. It does not need to be perfect. That's going to cost me 291 delta V. This stage alone, I still have 680, and I still have 1,200 in the final stage. So delta V is not a problem right now. Should have no problem returning to the planet. I'm going to go ahead and line up that node real quick. One thing I do need to pay a little bit of attention to, by the way, we have a world first here, you'll notice. World first milestone. We collected about 60,000 credits for accomplishing the speed record and a flyby of the moon, which we are now on the flyby of the moon. That would be this leg right here. We are in its gravitational pull. Go ahead and line this up. Okay, and then I'm going to warp to next maneuver. I'd started to say you need to pay attention to your electrical charge. When the engines fire, they charge your cabin battery. It's important to pay attention to that though, because if it runs dry, you won't be able to do anything, and that can be a problem. We are fine right now though. In fact, we will continue to be fine, as there will be engines on this all the way back to the point we get back to the planet. Okay, so I'm centered on there, and this is only a 7-second burn, so it's a short one. Here we go, 75-point material study. We're going to grab that. Go ahead and do all of these real quick. Again, tons and tons of science coming in. We'll go ahead and do the crew report. I don't think it goes above 15 for the moon, so we'll grab that one. And well, we're going to do the burn here in just a second. So I'm going to hold off, but then in just a moment, I'm going to go and do the collection so I don't forget, because I will forget. And kill it. That should be close enough. Looks like we're at 20,000 and 10,000. Not a perfect orbit, but it is an orbit, and I'll take it. Okay, focusing on the ship. I'm going to right-click on this guy and say collect all, because I do not want to forget all that science. Tons and tons of science coming in. That'll be very, very helpful. If we look, we have used the one on the main capsule. It would have been nicer if this had been the one that got used, because then we could eject these when they're out of fuel. They're almost out of fuel. But it's not a big problem either way. So, okay, we can watch ourselves orbit here. And we can orbit as long as we like. I will run these before we go. I'm going to go ahead and accelerate time. You can't go too fast. Depending on how close you become, it will change your the maximum you can advance time, how fast you can accelerate it. So I can get up to 100, it looks like. I'm basically just watching to see if either of these jump to a bigger number. I don't think they will. Based on where we're at, I don't think that's going to happen. Yep, so I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I hit the wrong button. I love it when I do that. I'm going to go ahead and run these real quick, grab what I can. That'll work. I'm going to accelerate again. I'm going to stop around, let's say here. Let's just do a warp 2. And I can turn that off, bump this up maybe a little bit. It'll stop each time, just briefly, and then jump back because I've turned this, I guess, on. You could say off, but it's on. We do not have any more material studies to do, so it would just be a goo. And I think I'll go ahead and do that. The time warp is complete. I'm going to run that one. It's a duplicate of one we already ran because we're not getting full points for it. But that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and close that out because I'm not going to need it anymore. I'm going to right-click this. Collect all. Because we will be ejecting these very soon. Okay, so we're at the moon and we want to get back to the planet. What do we do? The most efficient way to get back to the planet is counterintuitive. You would think you want to start over here and you want to make your orbit go this way to get there, but that's actually not correct. From a fuel efficiency perspective, when you want to move in, You accelerate while you're in. It'll push our orbit to here, and it'll allow us to fall back. Now, from a time perspective, I think it would be the opposite. But from a fuel perspective, the most efficient place to do it is right about here. And I will demonstrate how I know that here in just a second. First of all, because I heard Scott Manley say it. And so enough said. But here's a way you can kind of see it for yourself. Go ahead and make this go until you're no longer going to be orbiting the moon. That's when you get the moon escape. It's going to be right about, it's when those lines would intersect really, right? Just about there. Oh, a little more than that. Okay, there we go. So, right there. That's the first one. Now here's what I can do to demonstrate that 192 meters per second of delta V makes the most sense here. If I grab this guy when he lights up and I drag him around, what you'll see is if I did it on this side, 192 is not enough to break orbit around the moon. I'd have to go further. How much further? Probably not a whole lot, but that's fuel that's burning, and it could be fuel we don't have. There we go. So 199. So only 5 meters per second further. That's not tremendous, but it is a factor. It's something to consider. So I'm going to go to the 192 number. Doesn't have to be exact. I do have plenty of fuel, right? So this is just kind of more FYI, but we'll go ahead and let's do it right there. And I want to do it behind the planet as much as I can so I don't accidentally fall back into the planets or the moon. I'm going to do it behind the moon because I don't want to fall back into the moon's gravitational pull once we're done. It doesn't look like that'll happen. If it would, we would have had another one that said moon encounter, and well, actually looks like we could way over there, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I think we'll be okay. Except I've talked so much, we're already past that node. So the way the game works is it will automatically adjust for that. We don't have to worry about that. It knows that it'll be on the next time around. So I'm going to go ahead and say, if I can get one to come up, and I'm not doing that right now. Actually, I am going to have to drag it around to here. Okay, if I click here, this is not happening for me. I'm clearly doing something wrong. All right, I'm going to kill this. I'm going to make a new one. Add maneuver. Get to 192, which we know is plenty. I'm a little further than 192 this time, 194, but that'll be fine. So we'll do that. I'm going to click here. Warp to next maneuver. Sorry about that. Might cut that out. Save a little time. And I'm going to kill the warp to next maneuver because I failed to line up my node. I do want to go ahead and line up the node so that I don't have to worry about it when I come back around. You'll notice it's close to the prograde. We could put it right on the prograde and run it, and that would be perfectly acceptable. In fact, it probably will drift to that as we get here. In fact, I'm almost certain of that. As we come around the moon, it will probably do exactly that. So let's go ahead and speed things up again. And oh, now that's bad on my part. I went way too far. So we'll just tell this to go out one orbit, and that'll be fine. Warp to next maneuver. That's what I should have done. I wasn't thinking. Just lost a little bit of time. Jeb gets a little more flight time, right? That's a good thing. All right. That, and I think I hit fast forward too many times because it took off. And it's slowing back down. There we go. Now this is again one of those maneuvers that doesn't have to be exact because I have plenty of fuel. I'm not going to run out of fuel trying to execute this. I could start it now if I wanted to, and that would be perfectly acceptable. It's a 4-second burn because I'm not right on that node, and as we know, as we come a little bit, well, actually, if we come under, it'd be less fuel would be used. So I would have to use a little more right now to get to the same result, but not a problem. I'm going to fast forward time. Don't have to be exact. We'll go ahead and execute it now. We're on the node. Let's do it. That was on accident. And there it is. I'm going to fast forward to here. So this is where we'll come in to the orbit on the planet. This is where we'll re-enter the planet's sphere of influence. So right now, if we were to tell it we wanted to put a, I'd have to zoom way in there. There we go. Put something on here and I say add maneuver. It would try to put me back in. That would be what our orbit would look like. And I would not be able to get it so that we could actually orbit the moon. It would be too close. So I'm going to kill that. The next thing I wanted to show is that once this traverses to here, if I'm using accelerated time, it'll automatically stop, or at least slow down to, I think, 50 times when I change spheres of influence. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And as you see, it did stop. Okay. So what's next? So there's the issue of slowing down enough to fall into close orbit around Kerbin. We'll go ahead and do that. I could do it anywhere. Obviously, the most effective place to do it is at Perry. We could also do it at Apo. Those would be the two most sensible places to do it. But I actually can do it anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and do it right here where I'm at. I just need to find retrograde. Just hiding on me again. There we go. Put it on retro. And I've only got 5 seconds of fuel left in this stage, so I'm going to go ahead and just do that. Didn't do its thing. I had to run out of fuel. We'll stop that engine, so that engine will continue to run. It's got 1,200 left, but I can now safely jettison these guys. I believe I had, check one more time, but I believe I'd collected everything. Yep, looks like I had. So let those guys go. And if we accelerate, we'll see them go and they will leave us. All right. So the periapsis right now is 1,000,000 meters. The atmosphere is at 70,000. So what I want to do is just continue to accelerate against the retrograde until this falls to a number near the planet. Now what I want it to stop it at is about 80,000. 210, almost. Okay, we're at 98. There we go, that'll work. 80,000. The reason I'm going to do that, I could drop it into the atmosphere here, but the thing is it will be moving extremely fast when it gets here. Extremely fast. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Maybe come back and demonstrate some of those differences. So what I want to do is I want to circularize this orbit when we hit the Perry. So I'm going to go ahead and add a maneuver, and I'm going to drag that guy in until this is much more palatable speed, or more of a circular orbit anyway, and that will force it to be a more palatable speed. So we'll be at 80 and 80. And that will work. You'll notice that's 800 meters a second. So that's how much speed we're going to burn off, basically. 800 meters a second of speed before we hit the atmosphere to slow down. That's what the slowdown is going to require. We're totally okay. We'll still have 150 meters per second of delta V, and that should be plenty to pull us into the atmosphere. But it's worth noting that's cutting it kind of close. We could do less, and that would be perfectly okay. In fact, yeah, it looks like I did go a little too far now that I look. I was watching the wrong numbers, I guess. So That's going the wrong way. We want it to be in orbit. I failed to pay attention to the Perry there. That would put the Perry there. So it's still 830 though. It only saved us 50, but that will be a bigger cushion. That would be 200 meters a second, which should be more than enough to drop the few thousand meters into orbit there. So I'll go ahead and warp to next maneuver. I failed to set it up. Like I said, I usually like to set them up first. That's my bad. But it won't cause a problem. Okay. So we're doing 3,000 meters per second right now. If we were to hit the atmosphere, that'd be a lot of speed to have to bleed off. We'll go ahead and line this guy up. Once again, we do not need precision for this. We're just trying to get to orders of magnitude of speed and whatnot. But this will help tremendously with the final approach, basically. So we'll get down to 20 seconds here. I'm going to go ahead and accelerate that. And full throttle. That'll come in. It's going to take about 40 seconds for that to happen. We will have about 4 to 5 seconds of fuel left. A little more than that. Looks like 9 seconds. That'll do it. Okay, close that, and we will have a Perry of 70. That's really good. So you'll notice that slowed us down from, was it close to 3,200 down to 22. That's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my last maneuver right here, and I'm going to use the rest of the, well, I don't have to use all of it, but I think I will. Go ahead and slow this down more. And as you'll see, we are no longer going to be clearing the horizon. If there was no atmosphere on the planet, that's where we would hit with the maneuver that I just set. Because of the atmospheric drag, it'll probably, I think we'll end up in the ocean if I do that. In fact, I think it'll probably be right about here. I'm going to go ahead and try that. Let's see how close we come. I'm thinking it's going to be right off of this, a little above this straight, a little before that straight. This is the part of Kerbal that I have not mastered, figuring out how much drag based on the angle you're coming in and all that to plan for. If you keep your Perry consistent, you should have consistent results. So if your high altitude, your low altitude are the same, you would always use the same distance. I haven't gotten to the point where I am that precise with it. I just like to get back to the planet, however it takes. So we'll warp to the next one, and I can use, I could use just enough fuel to make this happen. I could use all of what I got. We're trying to use 77, and we got 223 meters a second. I honestly think that it's fine either way. Get a little closer. And then go. That's all it should need to put me at 16,000 under the surface on the next pass. Okay, I think that'll be fine. I suppose one thing we could do is we could say we're at the APO right now of 110. If we put it right there on that, oh, now we're in the water there. I went too far. So it'll be interesting to see how far that'll draw us in. I'm going to turn it around. Wouldn't normally do this. I'm going to push that number back out to right about here if I can. There we go. So right now it would be at the bottom of that crater. Let me turn this off, make it a little clearer. All things being equal, that's where I would hit from 110 and going into 33. I think we're going to land right about here, be my guess. See how close I am. We are ready to jettison the last stage there. So go ahead and do that. And then Jeb will put the rocket capsule into a re-entry position, retrograde, and we will make that happen. It's drifting a little because when you fast forward, Jeb doesn't pay attention to his orders. And there we go. Just want to hold that right there. 4 times speed. Should get a nice little fireball here. Right about now, I would think. There it comes. Whoops. Forgot when you accelerate it, your inputs are multiplied by the amount of time you're accelerating by. So very quickly, if we look at this, we can see the projected orbit, and we're going to land a little longer than what I thought. I was thinking we'd be more about right here where we'd splash down, but pretty close. Good to see. There it is. And it is, yeah, let's slow that down. We're at 10,000 meters. And our speed is slow enough to allow the parachutes to deploy without damaging them. And then I'm going to go ahead and fast forward till we're done here. In fact, I might cut to the end. Not a whole lot exciting to see here. That's where we're going to land. Not bad. Actually closer than I thought. We drifted slower. That's good. Jeb is happy. There are no other experiments to run, and we will recover. So that was our moon mission. Let's see what kind of science we collect. 368 science points earned. That will be more than enough for what I'm going to want to do next. From a money perspective, you should recall I had dropped down to 95,000 credits, but with all of the cool things that were done, which I'll see here, all these world first milestones. So let's finish this up. Jeb got 3 experience points. He did not gain a level, it doesn't look like, but that's okay. So if we come and look at these, there were a ton of things that were accomplished that gave a whole lot of money. So that's about 150,000 there for the the milestones, which include gathering scientific data from the moon, returning from the orbit of the moon, a flyby of the moon. We also have 96,000 for the Explore the Moon contract. There were 2 parts to that contract. And then actually another contract parameter. Apparently there were 3 parts to it, so that's great. And then the overall contract, completing it, 162,000. So lots and lots of money to play with. Should be able to do some upgrades. The research center is going to need to be upgraded soon. That might be next on the list because we eventually won't be able to expand that tree anymore. Thanks for joining me this time. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something new. If there's anything you have questions on, don't hesitate to leave a comment. And until next time, fair travels.